Hello dear students. So welcome to the next session regarding drugs and alcohol abuse. So let's discuss about what are the types of drugs. See, commonly drugs being abused by the youth or the adolescents we have discussed in previous class. Today we will discuss regarding types of drugs based on their effect. So here types of drugs which is based on their effects. So on what effect they are going to leave in our body. So how many type of drugs are there? So based on their effect there are drugs can be classified into three types. One is hallucinogenic drugs or the psychedelic drugs. Second one is sedatives, and third one is stimulants. So these are the three type of drugs based on their effects. The first one, hallucinogenic drugs are the psychedelic drugs. What is the meaning of this one? These drugs changes one's behavior, thought, or feelings without any stimulus. Without any stimulus means without the sensory stimulus being applied into his nervous system. What happens? Behavior, thoughts, feelings as well as perceptions changes. So any drug which is causing such changes in our body without sensory stimulus, those drugs are called as that is psychedelic drug or the hallucinogenic drugs. It's very clear here. The drugs which changes one's behavior, thoughts, next feelings, perceptions, and these changes occurs without any actual sensory stimulus. So they are called as hallucinogenic drugs or the psychedelic drugs. What are the examples of that psychedelic drugs or the hallucinogenic drug? Means here one is LSD. What is the full form of LSD? Lysergic acid diethylamide is the full form of LSD. And one more such drug is cannabinoids and others. Cannabinoids and other drugs are also there. So here LSD, what is the source of LSD? This one is the most common example of the question will be asked in the competitive examinations. What is the source of LSD? From where it is extracted? See, most of such drugs are extracted from the flowering plants. But here LSD, this LSD is extracted from, this one is extracted from and fungus. So what is the name of that fungus? Means that is Claviceps purpurea. The name of that fungus is Claviceps purpurea is the fungus. This fungus forms ergot, which is a parasite on rye plant. This Claviceps purpurea which forms ergot. This ergot which is an parasite, this one is an parasite on the rye plants. You know what do you mean by ergot and on which plant it forms is parasitic means. So here is the image of that plant in which this Claviceps purpurea forms an ergot. Here you can clearly see the presence of ergots also. That black color structures are present, right, formed in between that inflorescence of that plant. It is called as ergot. Is it clear? Okay. So LSD is extracted from the fungus. What is the name of that fungus? Claviceps purpurea, which forms an ergot, which is a parasite over the rye plants. So like that, there are so many drugs are obtained from the flower parts or the flowering plants and other sources which are having the hallucinogenic properties, such as, for example, yesterday we have discussed regarding the Atropa belladonna and then the seeds of datura, which are having hallucinogenic property. So that such drugs which are obtained from the seeds of the plants, flower tops of the plants, or the resins of the plants, so they are being used for producing hallucinogenic effects, okay, and for that property only these drugs are being used in some religious functions also and in rituals also from hundreds of years, okay. So such drugs are being used even in the religious functions of the programs and rituals and other ceremonies. So here main thing you have to remember, what do you mean by hallucinogenic or psychedelic drugs, examples of the drug, and source of that LSD, that is lysergic acid diethylamide. This is regarding the psychedelic drugs. The next one is sedatives. Next type of drugs are the sedatives. What do you mean by sedative? The name itself indicates here, it is going to sedate, means cause drowsiness or slow down the body function. These drugs reduces the excitement by depressing the central nervous system activity and lowers the physiological and functional activities of the body, so it leads to drowsiness or sleep. What is the mode of action of these sedatives here means? The drugs which reduces the excitement. How it reduces excitement means by depressing the CNS activity, central nervous system activity, and also lowers physiological and as well as functional activities, so it leads to drowsiness and sleep. Drowsiness or the sleep. Such drugs are called as sedatives. So example of such sedatives includes barbiturates and then the benzodiazepines. Barbiturates and benzodiazepines. These are the examples of sedatives. Those drugs which causes drowsiness or leads to sleep are called as sedatives here. So because of that reason only, such drugs are very useful for patients who are coping with mental illness. So the mental illness here, example of mental illness means those who are having a depression and those who are suffering from insomnia. What do you mean by insomnia? Insomnia means here sleeplessness. They will not get sleep easily. Commonly they will not get sleep, even at night also. That is called as insomnia. For such patients who are in depression or the insomnia, these sedatives are given so that they can easily go for sleep. Because of the CNS activities will get slowed or reduced, and physiological and functional activities are also that will be reduced. So only they will go for sleep. So these drugs are very helpful for the patients who are coping with the mental illness. That is regarding the sedatives. The next category of the drug based on their effect is stimulants. Commonly we will be intaking or consuming this one of this stimulant in our day-to-day life, but we are not aware of that properly. What does that mean? Let us know what do you mean by stimulants first. These are the drugs which stimulate the nervous system. Means here it is opposite to the action of the sedatives. Sedatives, they reduces the excitement and reduces the function of the nervous system. But here stimulants, what happens? They increases or stimulates the nervous system. So make the person more wakeful. He can be more wakeful, or he can be more what you call it as awake, and he will be more alert and active, and also that causes excitement. the person will become more excited, more active, more alert, more awake because of the stimulation for the nervous system that is caused by stimulants. Example of such stimulants includes here caffeine and then cocaine and amphetamines. Remember the examples and the types of the drugs based on their effect. They are very important for the competitive examination. So NEET or CET, these type of questions will be asked. So this discussion is very important for the NEET examination. So note on these points now. Later we will discuss regarding the other aspects of the drugs. So the next is the various type of drugs, their effects and their clinical usages. This chart is highly important for the competitive examinations, and this one will not be asked in the PU examinations. This is only for competitive examinations like the NEET and CET. So what are the types of drugs? Means there are 4 types are there. That is sedatives or the tranquilizers, 1. Next is opiate narcotics, stimulants and as well as hallucinogens. These are the types of drugs. Then what are the examples of these drugs? Example for the sedatives, as we said earlier, that is barbiturates and then the benzodiazepines. So example of such benzodiazepine is Valium, which is an example for the sedative. What is the effect of these sedatives or the tranquilizers, which can be used as depressants? Means their effect is they depress the brain activity, means they reduces the brain activity and produce the feeling of calmness or relaxation, and also leads to drowsiness or sleep when used in high dosages. When the depressants or the sedatives which are given in high doses, they causes drowsiness or the sleep, but their primary function is to produce the feeling of calmness or the relaxation. Then what is the clinical usage or use of such drugs? Means they are clinically used for the hypnotic and anti-anxiety drugs. Anti-anxiety drugs, those who are suffering from the anxiety, for them, okay, this acts as an anti-anxiety drug. So these are the clinical usages or the uses of the which drugs which are called as sedatives. Similarly, opiate narcotics. So what is the use of opiate narcotics then? These opiate narcotics are clinically used as analgesics. What do you mean by analgesic? Those drugs which relieve the pain or reduces the pain. So example of such opiate narcotics are opium, morphine, heroin, pethidine and methadone. And we are already discussed regarding the opium or the morphine and heroin. These are derived from or extracted from the plant called as Papaver somniferum, right? So what is the effect of such opiate narcotics? Means they mainly suppress the brain function or reduce the brain function and relieve the intense pain. This pain may be the physical or the mental. So only clinically they are used as analgesics or analgesic drug. So that is what regarding the example, effects and clinical use of the opiate narcotics. Next is stimulants. The next type of drugs are the stimulants. The name itself indicates here, that is, they stimulate the nervous system. Then what are the example of such the stimulants? Means as we discussed in previous session, that is caffeine and amphetamines. These are the already discussed examples of what is that one? Stimulants. The caffeine is very mild stimulant, and amphetamine, including the dexamphetamine as an example of the stimulant. Then is cocaine, which is obtained from the what is that one? Coca alkaloid, that is Erythroxylum coca plant, and its derivative named as novocaine. Remember, novocaine is a derivative from the cocaine. So these are the examples of stimulants, and their effect is, that is, they stimulate the nervous system and makes a person more awake, more alert, more active, and produces the feeling of excitement or cause the excitement. What is the clinical use of such stimulants means? They are used, clinically used for those who are suffering from attention deficit, those who are not able to be attentive in any sessions, right? Such persons are called as attention deficit. In order to make them more alert or more awake, more active, these drugs are being used, that is stimulants. Then for narcolepsy, and means those who are suffering from what is it? The lack of alertness because of the reduced nervous system activities. And then even for the weight control also, these drugs are being used, that is stimulants. Lastly, hallucinogens. Name itself indicates the drugs which causes the hallucinations are called as hallucinogens. Examples already we have discussed about the hallucinogens, that is LSD, lysergic acid, diethylamide. Next is mescaline and psilocybin. Along with that one, cannabinoids. So the cannabinoids which are obtained from the plant cannabis sativa, and various combination of these cannabinoids obtained from the flower tops or the resins or the leaves of that cannabis plant, which forms charas, hashish, marijuana, bhang. So these are the cannabinoids. They also come under hallucinogens. And what is their effect means? They alter our thoughts or the feelings or the perception of one or the individual, and also causes hallucinations without any the actual sensory stimulus. So only these are called as hallucinogens, and there is no clinical use of these hallucinogens. So this is what the discussion of what is that one? The types of drugs, their examples and effects, and clinical uses. This one is very important for the competitive examinations, and this is not at all asked in the PU examination. Make a note of these points, only in order to solve the questions which will be asked in the NEET examination and the CET examination. The first type of drugs, next examples, their effects, and the clinical uses of these drugs. Make a note of these points now. In next session, we are going to discuss regarding the tobacco addiction and then the adolescents and alcohol and drug abuse. Thank you.